The rain hammered against the iron gates of the Whitmore estate the night 8-year-old Marisol Cabrera stood shivering on the other side, clutching a torn photograph of her mother who had just been buried that morning. She was the housekeeper's daughter, and now that her mother was gone, she had nowhere else to turn but to the family her mother had served faithfully for a decade. What she didn't expect was for the iron gates to stay locked, and for a voice from the intercom to tell her, coldly, that charity cases were not the Whitmore family's concern. Before we continue this story, if you believe in kindness and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, drop a comment below, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Hope and Wisdom for more stories like this one. Now, let's continue. Marisol spent that night huddled beneath the awning of a closed bakery, the photograph pressed to her chest like a shield against the cold. She was eventually found by an elderly seamstress named Odessa Fontaine, who ran a small tailoring shop 3 streets away and had known Marisol's mother in passing. Odessa took the shivering girl in without a second thought, though she herself had barely enough to keep her own small shop running. From that night forward, Marisol's childhood became one of quiet struggle, mending fabric scraps into wearable clothes, learning to stretch a single loaf of bread across 3 days, and falling asleep to the rhythmic hum of Odessa's sewing machine instead of a lullaby. The Whitmore family, meanwhile, continued their gilded existence untouched by the girl they had turned away. Gregory Whitmore, the family patriarch, built his fortune in shipping and textiles, and his wife, Adelina, hosted galas where diamonds caught candlelight and laughter echoed off marble floors. Their son, Preston, grew up believing that struggle was something that happened to other people who simply hadn't tried hard enough. None of them ever spoke of the little girl who had once stood at their gates. It was easier to forget than to feel guilt. Years passed. Marisol grew into a sharp, determined young woman, carrying Odessa's teachings in her hands and her mother's memory in her heart. She enrolled in night classes while working double shifts at a fabric warehouse, sketching designs on scrap paper during her lunch breaks because she couldn't afford proper sketchbooks. Odessa, though her eyesight was failing and her hands trembled more each year, never once let Marisol believe her dreams were too big for a girl who came from nothing. When Odessa passed away peacefully in her sleep during Marisol's 23rd year, she left behind the shop, a single sewing machine, and a note that read simply, "Turn your pain into something the world has never seen." Marisol did exactly that. She poured every ounce of grief, every memory of cold nights and empty stomachs, into designs that told stories, coats stitched with hidden meanings, dresses that seemed to carry the weight of survival and the lightness of hope all at once. A small boutique agreed to feature 3 of her pieces in a local showcase, and within a year, whispers of her name began traveling through the fashion world. By the time she was 28, Marisol Cabrera was no longer the orphan girl turned away in the rain. She was the visionary behind one of the most talked-about emerging fashion houses in the country, celebrated for designs that made people feel something rare and real. It was during a charity auction, ironically one meant to raise funds for underprivileged youth, that Marisol came face to face with the Whitmore family again. Gregory Whitmore's shipping empire had collapsed 3 years prior after a series of failed investments, and Adelina's jewelry had long since been sold to cover debts. Preston, once arrogant and untouchable, now worked as an event coordinator for the very auction house hosting the gala, his voice noticeably humbled when he greeted the guests of honor. When he recognized the woman being celebrated on stage as the same girl who had once stood at his family's gates in the rain, the color drained from his face entirely. Gregory approached her first, his hands trembling not from age but from shame, and asked if they could speak privately. In a quiet corridor away from the music and champagne, he told her he had thought about that night more times than he could count, that turning her away had haunted him through every business failure, every sleepless night, as though the universe were repaying a debt he never knew he owed. Adelina, standing beside him, could not meet Marisol's eyes as she whispered an apology that seemed to carry the weight of 20 years. Preston simply stood in silence, understanding for the first time in his life what it meant to lose everything and have no one answer when you called for help. Marisol did not raise her voice. She did not seek revenge, though every fiber of the frightened 8-year-old inside her might have once wanted to. Instead, she told them about Odessa, about the cold nights, about the note that changed her life. She told them that forgiveness was not something she owed them, but something she chose to give herself, so that the bitterness would not follow her the way their rejection once had. She offered Gregory a position consulting for her company's supply chain, not out of pity, but because true strength, she said, was found in extending grace to those who once withheld it from you. If this story touched your heart even a little, please consider liking this video and leaving a comment below sharing what moment moved you the most. Your support means more than you know, and it helps this channel continue telling stories worth remembering. Before we go, I want to ask something special. If you believe every child deserves warmth, food, and a chance no matter where they come from, type "second chances" in the comments below. Let's fill this space with people who still believe in kindness. Marisol Cabrera went on to open a foundation in Odessa's name, one that guaranteed no child would ever be turned away from shelter or warmth again. And though the Whitmore family's fortune never fully returned, something more valuable took its place: humility, connection, and the quiet peace that comes from finally making things right. Sometimes life does not punish cruelty with anger, but with time, patience, and a mirror held up so gently that even the coldest hearts are forced to see themselves clearly at last.